All right, next rusty hole. There'll be plenty more after that. Right there. So that knob is the pull for the engine lid. Yeah, it's got also, there's a harness back behind the bulkhead. So let's take a closer look at that before I get in there with a cutting wheel and screw something up. Yeah, it's ugly. So I'm not sure what that wire is. That's not original. Somebody ran that for some purpose. You can see that harness in there. So I'll take the knob off, and then that bezel screws off, and should be able to fabricate a rectangle. Now I got a little bit of corrosion right there. I'll have to wire brush this seam sealer off here, see how far this corrosion goes back into here, but let me take a look inside of here. So yeah, I got to move that harness out of the way. Back in there. Yeah, that up top is pretty gnarly. So I'll have to go up a ways, just like I did on the other side. All right, let me move all this crap out of the way and clean this up, and we'll see what we got. Okay, so I think what's going to work well here is come down. You know, of course, I'll remove the lower inner firewall, so it'll mate up just above the top of the longitudinal there. I haven't seen the top of the longitudinal behind the bulkhead. It may be rotten also. We'll find out pretty soon. But if it isn't, I can come up here, and then a rectangle going all the way down till we get to this corrosion in here, and then basically a flap going up. Now what you have to be mindful of is this rib here. It's hard to get flat metal to conform to that. So if I'm careful and I make this L shape where it mates up with the flatter metal, it's going to get really dodgy right there on the edge of that rust hole. So basically an L shape, I think it's going to work pretty good in here. I'll have to drill a hole for the pull for the hood. So I think what behooves me next is to go ahead and get rid of the lower firewall in this area, just like I did on the other side. It makes it so much easier to work. It's got to come out anyway. So I've already exposed all the not rivets, spot welds along the top. And facilitate that, I'll just cut all this out. And also we'll have to cut around the two conduits for the brake cables, because the restoration design part actually has those little offsets in it with the holes pre-cut. So that's handy. And yeah, so let me get all that taken out and we'll keep going. Well, that's progress. So you can see the conduit for this engine lid pull. It's corroded. I think I'll just cut that back to good metal and sleeve on some rubber hose just to protect that cable. I mean, as far as I know, it still works. Well, the cable's present, but I don't even know about the latch. And then, yeah, I mean, this side, the outer lower firewall, I just need to rust treat all that. It doesn't have major perforations. I got to trim all around these conduits for the brake cables. And then later, after I get this patch done, I'll remove what's left of the lower inner firewall there where it's trapped in by the tunnel. So there's a series of spot welds all along the bottom of it's the top side of the tunnel and the sides all along there. I got a few more left up top. So, you know, it's getting closer. But this segment will be all about this patch here, which I'm hoping I'll have it knocked out by end of day today. Well, yesterday evening I got the patch cut and cleaned up the hole, and I did rust treat it overnight, so that helped a lot. And now I'm tacking in the patch. Patch turned out pretty good. I think it's going to be nice and tight. So get this done, and then I'll be able to move on to removing what's left of the lower inner firewall. Well, that turned out pretty good. Yep, welds look decent. So I've marked where the pull goes, and that's a little piece of hardware that I cut out of the original metal. And I'm just going to use a hole saw to cut that out. And I got a little latitude as far as positioning because the conduit on the other side is rusted back about good 2 or 3 inches. So, you know, got some wiggle room. Well, I guess that lines up okay. Because the seat pad goes over the top, and then that bezel ring goes over the seat pad. So if I didn't get this in the right spot, that might monkey all that up, but too late now to change it. So we'll just leave it the way it is, and we'll see what happens when we put the seat pad in. All right, got that all loosened up. I just need to make some cuts here. Got some remnants on the floor pan, same thing on the other side. And once I kind of free all that up, that last segment should pop out. Yeah, if you ever do this, you need to know about this. They actually, when they're welding those pipes, they weld it to the lower firewall, not to the tunnel. So you got to get in there with a chisel and break those welds. That was pretty dumb. So yeah, it's the two, you can see it where it was, the weld spilled over onto that flange, and that's what makes this last piece kind of tricky, is this flange wraps underneath. So it's the two conduits for the heater valve. Those welds spilled over onto the lower firewall. Just sloppy work, that's all. All right, I'm gonna clean this up and get it ready to put the firewall in. Gonna rust treat it too. All right, well, what the heck, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this off. I'm gonna get that lower inner firewall in there. I mean, I got the time, might as well knock it out. So here we go. So there's a replacement part for Restoration Design, and it's a nice one. So I need to go along and drill for rosette welds all along the top seam. The bottom will mate up with the pan later, so I can drill that later. And then I'll need rosette welds down these, a couple up top. So I'm going to take some measurements on the factory welds just to kind of get the same, not exactly the same spacing, but the same number. Also, these little insets, they each get 4 rosette welds, so I got to drill those out. Once I get all that stuff drilled out, I'll need to prime it, the inside, because once it gets in there, it'll be pretty much inaccessible. So that's it. All drilled out, primed, ready to go. I did a test fitment and enlarged those a little. So, but it's still going to be a struggle. Always is. Well, it wasn't quite the struggle I thought it would be. Getting those tubes to line with those orifices over there. I had to beat on them a little, line them up. Now I'll take sheet metal screws and tighten up the top and the sides, get everything nice and tight before I start welding, but it's going to be a huge improvement to what was in there. Okay, I got her in there. That tunnel was kind of a bear, working around that harness without setting it on fire or chewing it up with the brush. It's just troublesome. Like I said earlier, I used sheet metal screws to pull the sides, the top, put one in here. Along the tunnel, the firewall has a tendency to kind of deform, so I had to use about 4 sheet metal screws in there to pull that together. Also did some seam welds, help things along up top here. Little one there on the sides. But it's pretty tight, and the tubes ended up pretty good, the brake tubes. I'm not going to worry about welding around them, maybe just put some seam sealer. But this is huge. This really kind of buttons up this end of the car. Now I can get in here and cut out those cross members that I've been fighting the whole time. I left them in to keep the tunnel stabilized and in position when I had the firewall out. And now I'm going to cut them out. And I'm going to take, before I cut them out, I'm going to take a Dremel and scribe where they connect to the longitudinal. That way I get the new ones in the right spot. Just scribe around there. I mean, a lot of times you can see where you drill out the spot welds anyway. So yeah, this is big. I like it. That's a nice part from Restoration Design. All right, that's going to button this this series up for sure. When I get the cross members, also I got to get in here and work on these things. I don't know what to call them, but I got to fix them before I put the floor pan in. It's like some kind of stiffener, whatever. In the past, I've just done strips of sheet metal because it's always the bottoms of them that get corroded. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. We'll be back soon.